We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to my Monday and your Monday. This is the Born to Talk radio show, and I'm your host, Marsha Wietecha. Where conversations plus connections equals community. And this isn't the first time I've led a show open with this song by Toto, Africa. I find myself humming it all the time because I had such the great opportunity to be in Africa in March of this year. It was life-changing, and that's what people will say to you once you go to Africa. It changes your life. And my guest today is Kyle Horne. So Kyle, I want to welcome you to the show.
Thank you.
And we're going to be talking a lot about Africa, specifically the country of Malawi. But I wanted to let those of you listening know how it is that I came to know Kyle, because there's always a side story to my guests. A lot of times they've come because they were members of the Y, which I worked at down the street.
Right.
Sometimes there's just other ways, and so there has to be a shout out to our mutual friend Charlene.
That's right.
Because Charlene and you know each other from your work occupation.
That's right.
And she said, "Oh, I know somebody you need to meet," and that was you.
Yep.
And that's how it started. And gosh, I know you came in and visited me, and we spent, I don't know, a few hours at the local bar next door, just getting to know one another and getting to meet each other.
And still wasn't enough time.
It wasn't, because I was born to talk, and you can talk.
I think I was too.
So this will be a great show.
Yeah.
We're going to take turns talking. What a concept.
Right.
You can even watch. Oh, wow. So Kyle, first of all, I mentioned your name, but what I think is also important for our guests to understand is that we're going to be talking about why you're here specifically. You
Right.
are the founder and the executive director of Together Act Now. And that's really what we're going to be talking about today. But before we get right to the subject of that, you are one interesting man, and I thought that you could just share a little bit about the background, where you grew up, a little bit about yourself before we get into your organization.
Yeah, of course. So I was born in Anchorage, Alaska. We were just talking about that.
I'm going in June.
I know. June's going to be a very beautiful time to be there. So I was born in Alaska, and then I grew up between there and I spent some time in New Zealand because that's where my dad's from. So kind of part Alaskan, part Kiwi, and had a lot of fun going between those two places.
Terrific. And then you were educated in Alaska, but until,
So I was initially on the International Baccalaureate track at school. So I was in all the IB, AP classes and was just studying my head off. And I mean, my schedule was, I'd end school and then I was a big theater major. So I'd go to either a rehearsal for a couple hours, or I was in a touring show for my sophomore year. It was insane. I was in a touring show of Macbeth at the same time, doing another show at the local theater. And then I'd get home around like 10:30, 11 at night, and then start my 3 hours of homework.
Oh my gosh.
And then I'd get up at about 5:30 in the morning so that I could get to school, because we started at about 7. So yeah, it was a little crazy.
Real serious acting, not singing and drama. I mean, singing and dancing, or more
Okay, so we'll say this. Before my voice changed, singing as well. Yes, when my voice changed,
not so much. Huh? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, dancing. I do enjoy dancing. So from going to school in Anchorage, I then I was heavily involved. We have an amazing theater scene up there. It's surprising, actually. When people go up there, they're always amazed at how much theater is there. But I think it's because there's not as much maybe to do kind of around the area. And so a friend of mine had gone to Interlochen Arts Academy, which is in Michigan. And I had always heard of it. I thought about going there for the summer camp, but no way in my mind did I think I could go there for the academy. And she came and saw me in a show, and she was like, "Kyle, you really need to go. Like, this is a passion you have. You need to follow it." So it took a lot of convincing with my family, but after a lot of time, I finally got down there. And so I did my last 2 years at Interlochen Arts Academy. And then from there, I wanted to still pursue acting as my profession. And so I auditioned all across the country and then at a lot of schools over in England as well. And I always wanted to go to England. My passion has been Shakespeare. So I mean, we could have a whole show me rattling off Shakespeare
Why is it
quotes.
how we like sat up straighter or
I know,
something
right?
like Shakespeare? Wow.
But I love Shakespeare, and is so much of what I was doing in Alaska was Shakespeare. I mean, Julius Caesar, Macbeth, Hamlet, a lot of the comedies, Romeo and Juliet then as well, and Twelfth Night. Oh gosh, the list goes on and on. So I was fortunate enough to have a selection of schools that I could go to, and the school I chose and decided to go to was the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama in London.
Oh, how fun.
And so it was amazing. It was honestly, it was such an honor to be able to walk in the footsteps of people like Dame Judi Dench and Lord Laurence Olivier.
And you were like 18 years old?
Yeah, I went straight from high school into that program.
How cool is that?
Yeah, a little nerve-wracking, really.
yes,
You know, is the type of school where you had to wear, black tights and a black shirt, and even if it had a logo on it, you had to go home, and if you were 2 seconds late, you were gone for the entire day. It was very strict.
That sounds like it. Wow.
But to tie that back to what we were saying was we had a lot of movement classes there. And everyone always thought I was a dancer. I didn't have really a big dance background, but they would always say, stop, don't think about your Saturday ballet lessons. When we'd be having movement classes, in the back of my head, I was like, oh, I never did Saturday ballet. But movement is something that I really do enjoy.
Oh, that's great.
Long story to loop that back
Well,
there.
I think that I just, like I said, I could probably do an entire show just about you and all of that. But today we're really going to focus on what about your organization.
Yeah.
And I thought actually one of the first things we could talk about is where is Malawi? Because some people, Malawi, what is that?
I get a lot of people will say, oh, you're going to Hawaii. How nice. I'm like, no, not Maui. But no, so Malawi's in Africa, and then within Africa, sub-Saharan Africa. So the countries that surround it, it's a landlocked country. It's really tall and skinny, and it's by Mozambique, Tanzania, and Zambia.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think a map should be coming up. And
yes.
Yeah.
And you can see where it's just this long. It reminds me of Chile. It's just that's kind of geographically it's that long. I mean, other they're on the coast, but I mean that's that long, skinny country.
Yeah.
How do you have any? What's the I mean, is it highly populated?
It's highly populated, and it's been the scary thing is it's been spiking just in the last 8 years or so.
Oh, interesting.
So we're at just over 18 million people now.
Wow.
And it's a tiny little. I might be getting this incorrect, but I believe it's about the size of Pennsylvania.
Oh wow, 18 million.
18 million.
And what language do they speak?
If they're educated, they'll speak English, but the local language is Chichewa. And then there's definitely some smaller tribal languages. I'd say the third spoken language is Yao or Chow. But Chiche, I wanted to teach you a little bit. So
okay,
whenever you greet someone, you always have to do a greeting. Okay. And so Moni is hello.
Moni.
Yep. So if I were greeting you, I'd say Moni Molibwanji.
Okay, and now I would say.
And then you would say Dili Bueno.
Dili Bueno.
Kainu.
Kainu.
So I just said hello. How are you? And you said I'm good. And you.
And you.
And I'd say Dili Bueno Zikomo Kombili. And then you would reply Zikomo.
Zikomo.
Yeah, which is thank you.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Well, so how many languages do you speak, Kyle?
That is one thing that I give my parents a hard time about. I wish they would have forced me, locked me in a language class when I was younger.
Like you had time for it.
Oh, yeah, I know. Well, it is. When I was younger, I did start a group at my elementary school to learn German. It really fascinated me. We had a lot of family friends who were German, and it was a language I wanted to learn. I really wanted to go to the Soccer World Cup that was in Germany. So I started learning German. I set up a whole class and course for it, got a teacher, got a whole group of kids to start. And it's really cool.
You've been directing your whole life, haven't you?
Yes, sure. And when I was back there, they're still doing after school language programs after this.
Kidding.
So that's pretty cool.
That is very cool. All right. So how did, when was the first time that you went to Malawi? How old were you when you went there the first time?
So I was 16. It was 2008. So next year, I go once a year, sometimes twice.
Welcome home, by the way, because you just got back.
Yes, less than a week ago.
Less than a week ago. But, okay.
Yeah, so next year is going to be my 10-year anniversary of going.
Does that seem shocking to you?
When I was down there and someone said that to me, I started laughing. Like, I'm smiling right now because it's so strange. Inside, I still feel like I'm this little teenager trying to figure out, where I'm going, what's happening.
Right. How did you? We're gonna be talking about your organization. I'm just wondering, Together Act Now, how did you come up with the name of that organization?
Right. Okay. So we used to have another name, and we were doing operation down there. And do you want the long story or the short story?
Well, you can give me whatever story you'd like. We got an hour.
Right. Okay. So it was such an interesting time because when I initially started, there was another organization with a very similar name to what we were doing, without saying it. But and I was a senior in high school. We'd been going for about a year now, and I got this email from this massive law firm. I mean, huge law firm, saying that I needed to cease and desist use of the name, all these things. It just went against me and the nonprofit, and as a 17, 18-year-old, it was
That's very intimidating.
Yeah, a scary thing to get. And it was an organization that I had tried to reach out to and communicate with, and I hadn't received anything back. And I'd been told by locals that it wasn't an operation. It was. I was just asking the wrong people. And so at any rate, it was a really hard night, actually, because I talked to one of my mentors who's a legal genius, and he basically just said, he was like, look, you need to remove in good faith everything, all your websites, all of that. So here's like little 17-year-old Kyle, and it was about 1 a.m. I was at Interlochen Arts Academy. I had to ask my counselor to turn on the internet at the front desk. And so, because they shut off our Wi-Fi,
Sure.
And I'm sitting there and I'm talking to the person who had created the website at the time, and she would say, okay, type in this web address and see if it's live. And it would say, not live. And every single page that I had to type in it hit me hard because this is something that was my passion that I had created. And so at any rate, that organization, that name, the organization stayed on, but the name ended. And I had to create something. And I ended up talking to a lot of different people. So all of us were coming together to come up with this name. And it was actually my mom who, I was coming up with something very similar. And it was my mom who came up with Together Act Now, because what we're doing is the entire community has to come together. It's not an outside organization coming into Malawi to do work. We are working with the community. The community is
Big
the one.
difference, huh?
Yes. The community is the one who's the one doing the outreach. They're the face of the program. So we have to work together. And act is a play on word because we're having to act now. And also we are a group of actors.
Yes.
So we're doing theater for HIV/AIDS awareness. So Together Act Now, because the reality, HIV is a problem that has to be worked on right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I've selected some of my favorite African music.
I'm excited.
I love this. In fact, honestly, it gives me goosebumps. I love the sound of this music.
Yeah.
Isn't it just fabulous?
The voices and the drums is beautiful.
It's just fabulous. So we're going to take a quick break.
Great.
And when we come back, we're going to talk about the mission and your organization. So stay tuned, everybody. We'll be back right after this quick break.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Marsha Wietecha, inviting you to join me every Monday, 1 p.m. Pacific, for Born to Talk, where conversations plus connections equals community. This is the heart of my show each week as my guests share their stories, from nonprofits, authors, sports figures, travel experts, and much more. If you have a story to tell, I want to share it. Don't forget to tune in to Born to Talk every Monday, 1 p.m. Pacific, exclusively on latalklive.com. And you can watch live on Facebook and Twitter. If you missed the live show, check out my website, borntotalkradioshow.com, where you can watch on demand. Born to Talk every Monday, 1 p.m. Pacific, where conversations plus connections equals community. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, I'm Del Lady Jones, and I'm a certified relationship and divorce coach.
And I'm Debbie Carlin Boyle, a certified personal trainer, fitness instructor, and health coach.
Join us on Tuesdays, 2 p.m. Pacific, for Del and Debbie's Mind, Body, Soul, and everything in between, exclusively on LA Talk Live.
Become part of the conversation with expert guests discussing life-changing topics such as relationships, divorce, longevity, parenting challenges, dating, intimacy, and so much more.
We would love to hear your opinions and questions, either on our Facebook page or by calling us directly at 323-473-3100. We are Del and Debbie's Mind, Body, Soul, and everything in between. Tuesdays, 2 p.m. Pacific on latalklive.com.
You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, and now live on Facebook, or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. And now on our YouTube channel, Del and Debbie Mind, Body, Soul. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Okay, we're back. Waka waka. Now, if I Shakira. Now, why does that make you smile?
I am a huge soccer fan.
Yes.
Growing up, I played competitive soccer. My brother played soccer. My dad played soccer. And this song just brings me right back to the South African Soccer World Cup.
Yes. What was that? What year was that? Do you remember? 14?
Yeah, so I didn't get to see any games, but I was
Right.
down there when it was happening.
Yes.
It was one of the most recent ones.
Right. I don't exactly know when, but
Oh,
I know that
gosh.
Shakira did this, but
Yeah.
I just think it's such a great sound.
Yeah.
Anyway, you're a storyteller.
Right.
You're very accomplished, and I would love to just hear some of the Malawi stories that you might want to share with us, just because
Yeah.
you've just returned, and I'm seeing this big
course.
giant smile on your face. So let's share a couple of stories with me.
Sure. Okay. So, you know what I'll do? I'll share a story from one of my first days there.
Okay.
A story from maybe around the middle, and then one from my last
Perfect.
trip. Great. So on one of my first days, I was in the back of a truck. It's called a Matola. So I was sitting in the back. We're going through this small village. It was this long journey into this village we were going to. And all of these Malawians were kids. So they'll always come running after the truck. And if they see a foreigner, they yell, Azungu. And that means foreigner. So they'll come running after and they'll go, Azungu, Azungu. And if you feel like a bit of a celebrity, but you're not at all. Some of them.
No, you're a foreigner.
You're a foreigner, yeah. But they're known as the warm heart of Africa. That's the saying about Malawi. So it's all in warm, good spirit. But all the kids were pointing at me and kept saying butthole. And I thought to myself, one of my first days here, and I was like, it's an interesting choice of a bad word to use, first off.
Exactly.
Second off, why are they calling me this? And they were all calling me it. And I'm sitting there, I'm like drinking my water because it's super hot out, right? I'd finish that water, set it down, and get another bottle of water. Butthole. I was like, oh my gosh, why are they being so rude? And I was like, okay, maybe I don't like this country as much. But little did I know, I had a Malawian friend with me, and he was laughing about halfway through. And I leaned over to him, and I said, what are they saying? Because you're laughing at me and they're saying butthole, and they're looking at me like I'm very, like they're confused why I'm not understanding what they're saying. And he goes, no, they're saying bottle.
Oh.
But with their accents though, it sounded like yeah, butthole. And I wasn't the only one who thought that either.
Oh, that's so
but
funny.
I was very offended.
So every time you say like a bottle, it's like a butthole.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, because they want that because they can turn it in and then get a little bit of money from it.
Oh, sure. They recycle, so they wanted
Exactly.
it. Oh, so that was,
Yeah.
you were like 16 years old?
Yeah, 16, and I was very confused.
That's great.
Let's see, another story. I'll tell an animal story.
Okay,
Oh my
cool.
gosh. Okay, so
Lots of animals there, huh?
Oh, yeah. And this one actually is in Zambia.
Okay.
So we went over, I've only gone over there once, and I went to South Luwande National Park. Beautiful, so many animals. And we were going out there on a safari, a night safari,
Mhm.
and you're in an open Jeep,
Yep.
right? We're going along. We're seeing all the animals. It's great.
Yep.
It's amazing.
Beautiful.
And all of a sudden we hear over the radio that the lions have a kill out, and this is the dry season, out on the riverbed. We're not allowed to drive out there. But our driver decides he's going to maybe give it a quick little go. So we start driving out and we start getting kind of, because it's quite deep sand, and he starts getting stuck. So he backs up quickly and backs out. And we think, okay, that's good. We can see the 2 mama lions and the babies. Everyone's feeding. It's a zebra there. We're good. Like, we can stay here on the bank and we can see it perfectly fine. Well, no, all he was doing was backing up to get more speed to go further out.
Good grief.
Yeah. So we're all of a sudden further out there. We have a big spotlight shining on there.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, Mama Lion stands up and she stares directly at us. And she starts pacing back and forth in front of the prey.
And what was it, a buffalo?
No, it was a zebra.
Oh, it was zebra. Okay.
Yeah. And so our driver, he turns on the big, Jeep and tries to put in reverse, hit on the accelerator. Sand goes flying everywhere.
No.
We're not moving. And so he's, and then we have to let the sand, but the problem is the light's catching on the sand, so we're not actually seeing the lion.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, so it's really scary. So what we end up doing is we then have to let the sand settle. And I am not kidding. That lion was slowly walking towards us as it was pacing back and forth. And so whenever the sand would settle, it would then be that much closer. And my heart, I'm, doing this. And it got to the point where they got us guys on the side of the Jeep, and we're going back and forth.
Rocking.
We're rocking it, trying to get it loose. It's not working. It's getting closer. And the problem is he wouldn't call it in because he wasn't allowed to be out there. So we're trying to get it out, and everyone's scared. And finally he asks the guys if we'll get out front, and we push. So our back is to the lioness
good God.
as she's pacing back and forth, neck down, staring at us as we're pushing it out, right? So we finally get the truck out. I mean, my hands, I can't even tell you how much they were shaking. And we're standing on the side, and we're basically crying. We're laughing so hard, right? And at this point, we get back in the truck after we've calmed down. We're good. We're safe. We're all right. We drive there the next morning because we want to see where we were. And I had asked them, where were the daddy lions? And he said, well, usually they're waiting. They needed, another kill, so they would have been waiting nearby. Well, there were 2 matted down areas right on either side of the truck.
Oh, good grief.
That we hadn't seen the night before.
They were right there.
They had been right there that whole night.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
They're fierce.
Scary.
Yes.
Yeah.
That mama lion might be scary, but those daddy
lions were like,
And not dandelions, I might
No,
have.
yeah, daddy lions.
Daddy
yes,
lions.
Exactly.
Bottle butthole.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's great. And then you were just.
I was just there.
And you had some terrible rain or something happen.
Yeah,
right?
there was some intense rain going on. We had, the country has a massive power problem as is. I honestly think that is the biggest problem the country has right now is if they can't have consistent power, companies aren't going to want to go there to invest, to be able to bring jobs to the country. You can provide education, but if then there are no jobs, what can they do?
They don't stay.
Yeah. Exactly. They either leave the country to go work elsewhere, South Africa, or if they can get anywhere else, somewhere else, or they go back to a farm and they farm, but they're going, wait, I'm educated now. I don't want to do this.
Right.
So it's really frustrating because the companies aren't wanting to go there. And also it's a landlocked country. So it's really difficult to be able to export things as well.
Where do you fly in?
So I always fly through London because I used to live there, and I'll take a day there, and then I fly down to Johannesburg.
That's exactly what I did. Okay.
And then I fly up to Malawi. So I either fly into Lilongwe or Blantyre. So this trip I flew into Blantyre, which is in the south, and then I flew out of Lilongwe. And I have to tell you a quick little story about when I was flying out. Man, I missed my flight, and when I was trying to get there, there was a miscommunication on what road we were going to take. I wanted to take the Mountain Passage and leave my country director at the Balaka turnoff. He understood that I was taking him to Balaka, which is like 2 hours in the wrong direction.
Oh, dear.
So once we get going, I was like, aren't we hitting the Mountain Passage yet? He goes, no, we're going to Balaka. And I went, oh, no.
It's like going to San Diego to fly out of LAX. It's not going to work.
So we step on it. But we've already driven, instead of driving like, we have to keep going.
Yes.
So we're going, and I tell him, like, right, when I drop you off, I need someone to get in the car to tell me where all the police roadblocks are going to be, so that I have a local in there with me, so I, nothing bad happens. And then I need someone to meet me closer to the airport who can take me around all of the traffic, so that I can actually get to the airplane. There was a point where I had 7 people in my car that I didn't know.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm in this little tiny car trying to overtake all these big trucks, and I'm going, and it's not working. And there's this old a go-go, which is a grandma. She couldn't walk, and we were taking her to the hospital. And all of a sudden, I had to get her out of the car because I was dropping her off.
God.
And I had to like pick her up, and I literally missed my check-in by 2 minutes. And I think of all these little moments.
They close those gates, don't they? Because it happened to me too.
But I have flown out of there before, out of the other airport, and I have. I won't say how, but managed to talk my way into getting on the plane. But yeah, it didn't work this time, and I literally was 2 minutes late.
God.
Oh.
Since our focus today is going to be about HIV and the advocacy of HIV and AIDS, I thought we could talk about just briefly, so that people understand what the difference is between those two conditions.
Yeah. So HIV is the human immunodeficiency virus. So that is what, if people say, so-and-so just got AIDS, as in, they maybe just acquired it, that would be incorrect. So HIV is then broken down into multiple stages, and AIDS is considered the last stage of HIV. So what it is it's obviously spread by body fluids, primarily blood. So in Malawi, we're always trying to focus on primarily sexual interaction. That's the main problem. In other countries here in America, other first world countries, needle exchange is obviously a big problem. Not as much down there. But yeah, so HIV is what you initially get, and then you go through multiple stages. The last stage being AIDS, and that is when your CD4 count, your white blood cells, are below 200. And just to give you an idea, normal body has, I believe, between 500 to 1,300 white blood cells. But once it gets below 200, that's considered that you are now at AIDS, which is an acquired immunodeficiency syndrome.
Got it.
And what that means, and now this is the confusion too, is people think, they died from HIV. Well, no. HIV, which then leads to AIDS, and you can actually you could get down to AIDS and then come back out of it.
Really?
Yeah. So if, let's say, you didn't know you had it, you didn't know you had HIV, you're down at that final stage and you get put on the medication, and your body is resilient enough and you're far enough along and you don't have another illness, you can actually go back out of it.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And is it also possible then to be an HIV and not ever get to the AIDS level?
Yeah.
People live with HIV, correct?
Exactly. HIV, it's not curable, but it is livable. It's a little different in Malawi. Obviously, there's not quite the same level of medication and help.
I was curious about that.
But everything's free down there. That's the thing.
Really?
All the ART medications are free. The testing is free. Everything's free.
Wow. Do they have enough physicians to do the testing necessary?
I don't know if we really have enough. It comes down to other problems. It comes down to the problems of getting the physicians out into the villages, which is part of what we do.
Okay.
Because the villagers won't have the 20 cents it takes to get in the Matola to go to the testing center. Or like when I was just there, I had a villager come up to us when we were in a village one time, and he said, "I've been off my ART medications for a week because I can't afford to go into the clinic."
Oh boy.
So, the medicine's there, it's free, but sometimes they can't get to it.
Are there more men or women that get HIV? Is it even?
Right now, we're focusing on trying to get more men tested because in terms of testing levels, we're able to get on average, we test maybe 65-35, 65% women, 35% men. It obviously very much varies on the village.
Okay.
But it's harder to get young men to get tested. It's much easier to get women. And
I wonder why. Is there a stigma?
There's a stigma. I mean, that's half of what our program is doing, is breaking down stigmas.
Sure.
It's yeah.
And certainly talking about safe sex is obviously a key component here.
Right.
Do they do they, some like you had mentioned earlier, right here in this country, right here in the city, there was certainly a big AIDS epidemic with
Right.
blood transfusions,
Yeah.
where people were donating their blood, but the blood wasn't being tested the way it needed to be, and people
Yeah.
were getting transfusions. And so, is that really an issue there, or not too much?
I mean, it is, but not as much.
Okay.
I mean, it's definitely something to consider with blood transfusions.
Why do you, of all the countries in Africa,
Right.
why did you select going to Malawi to bring this support?
I think that can be broken almost into two questions. Why Malawi initially, and then why did I stay?
Right.
So initially, my mom lived in Africa in the 70s. So I grew up just surrounded by these photographs and books, sculptures. Our entire house was just surrounded with African artifacts. And I would take out my mom's passport and I would pull out pages and I would look at it and I would go, whoa, tell me about a story from that country. And she would always tell me, she'd go, the best stories are from the countries that I didn't get stamps to.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, okay, which really surprised me from my mom. And so I was just surrounded by it. And when I was 16, my brother was a little bit older. My mom and dad brought us down there since it was so near and dear to her heart. So we had some friends that helped start an orphanage in Malawi. So and she was based out of Kenya, but there was a civil war going on in 2008 there, so it wasn't a good time to go. So we decided Malawi was a great place. We had friends who started this, would go back there, and I fell in love with it. And, I realized my background is in theater, and so we'll get into the actual program here in a second, but the reason I stayed in Malawi, though, is it's one of the hardest hit by the HIV epidemic.
Really?
Just this last month, new statistics came out that the district we work in had an increase of 50% in the prevalence rate.
Even with all the information that you're bringing?
Yep.
How discouraging that must have
Yeah.
been.
It's
Wow.
and that goes back to the type of people that we are trying to test, and that's so important.
Well, you're doing the outreach in a very unique way, aren't
Right.
you?
Yeah. Yeah, you want me to talk about that a little?
Sure.
Yeah?
Why don't you talk a little bit about?
Oh,
Not quite yet, because you know
Yes.
what? We're going to take a quick break, but we got to talk about this song, don't we?
Yes.
What's the name of this song?
This song is called Condom Man, which is my nickname down there. And we laid down this track literally a week ago. We laid 5 tracks down in the span of 3 days. You can hear it together now. Yeah. This is one of our songs. Yeah.
Did you write this?
I helped write it.
Okay, we'll talk more about that
Yeah.
too. There's some questions here. We'll get to them. We won't get to them, but I can tell you one thing. We're talking about what means so much to you. So stay tuned, everybody, and we'll be right back, Honda Man.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and hosts of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Marsha Wietecha inviting you to join me every Monday, 11 a.m. Pacific, for Marsha's Music Shuffle. My show features music from the 60s and beyond, bringing you artists and songs that touch us in so many ways with lyrics, rhythm, and voices. Put your dancing shoes on and join me every Monday morning, 11 a.m. Pacific, for Marsha's Music Shuffle, exclusively on latalklive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Want to enrich in your radio listening? Do it now with the new WDC radio show, LA Talk Live's new talk rock radio show, Saturdays 4 p.m. Pacific, filled with news, talk, sports, entertainment, and more. Tune in as we fill your weekend with rock and funk from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and today. WDC radio show. Listen as we kick off the new generation of radio with talk, rock, and funk. The all-new WDC radio show, Saturdays 4 p.m. Pacific on LA Talk Live.
back, everybody, to Graceland. I love this song.
Yes.
Oh, it's such a great song. Okay, so we're going to be talking now specifically about what it is that you do in Together Act Now. Tell me a little bit about this and your mission.
So Together Act Now, we mitigate the spread of HIV. That means we're trying to slow it. We're trying to stop it. I mean, that would be our ultimate goal.
Sure.
So we have a couple different programs. Our main program is we use theater for HIV/AIDS awareness. That's my baby.
Sure.
And so the idea is we'll go into a village. We'll provide. We have local actors that it's a play that I wrote, and they'll go into the village, speak in their local language, and they'll do a play that is educational about HIV.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
How'd you come up with this concept of doing something like this?
So the idea kind of came in two different waves. One wave was while I was at Interlochen. I was volunteering at the local primary school, and I was working with a class that was struggling, and on a reading assignment. And so I decided, you know what, why don't we take this and why don't we turn it into a play? We can all write it out, write roles. And so I wrote a little play for them. And then Interlochen Arts Academy is, considered one of the biggest and best art schools in the country. So I then set it up for them to be able to perform in front of the entire theater division at Interlochen, which was a huge deal to them.
These are little kids.
Yeah. So it was really cool. So they got to get up there and perform, and we got them all tickets to go and see the play that was going on there at the time. And so it really opened up my eye, because all of a sudden now they were talking and discussing the characters, discussing the plot, thinking how it was going. Like, what do you think would have happened if this happened? And why do you think it was Peter Rabbit? Why do you think Peter Rabbit did this? And all these. And so there was a lot more discussion, and all of a sudden they were interested and engaged.
And a very interactive, huh?
Yes. And so there was that. And then the other side was that first year when I was in Malawi, I was volunteering at a secondary school there. I was paired up with a classroom that wasn't performing as well. And I took, once again, a book that they were struggling with, turned it into a play. We filmed it, and then we got to watch it back. And having that engagement and interaction, they scored higher than the other classes.
Oh, man.
So it opened up my eyes. I went, wow. Theater is a great way to engage in discussion, right? Theater opens up conversation. Well, in Malawi, what's something that people don't want to talk about? HIV. There's so much stigma surrounding it. There's a lot of silence around it. So let's take something that opens up conversation and breaks down stigma, and let's pair it with a thing people don't want to talk about. So I took my training from theater and applied it to HIV down there.
Wow. And how long have you been doing that?
So my first year down there was 2008. And then I did a lot of research, figuring out what other organizations were doing, what was successful, what wasn't, and created the program over the next year. So 2009 was the first year that we actually did our events.
And do you do the same play across the different villages? I mean, do you write a different script, or how does the process work for you?
So, okay, so maybe I'll give you a breakdown of like a day in the life, right?
A day in the life.
So, leading up to the day in the life, we would have one of our district directors go into a village, and they would talk to the village chief and get permission and their blessing for us to be able to come in. We'd set up a date.
There's a picture of two gentlemen. Are those village chiefs that you're speaking to?
Yeah.
Okay.
So some of the photos, So those are two village chiefs I was speaking to. And so we would go in there and we would make sure we get permission, all their blessings. And then day of the show, our actors would all come together and we'd get in the back of a truck. And we would drive around. So we'd drive into the village, leave half of them under the mango tree or the meeting tree, whatever it is. Maybe it's a baobab tree or an acacia tree. And we would leave them there. And the other half would go in the back of the truck, and they'd go around the village with a megaphone and a drum. And they would say, Tienze, Tienze, and they'd tell them, everyone to come fast. And they'd tell everyone to come to whatever the meeting place is, because we're going to have a HIV awareness play. There's going to be HIV testers, because we bring HIV testers and counselors with us.
Wonderful.
So we tell them to bring their health passports. And sometimes when I'm there, so Azungu is the foreigner, the white person, and they kept saying, Zungu, and I speak a little bit, but not fluently at all. And I leaned over and I said, what are you guys saying? Because there's a bunch of kids running after the truck, and they're laughing whenever you say Azungu. And he said, I'm telling the kids if they come to the show, they get to watch the white boy dance.
Oh.
So that was kind of fun.
Oh, man.
But yeah, so then we come in, we usually will do a comedy initially, and I'll let the cast kind of create their own comedy.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Now, excuse all of my interruptions
Yes,
because this is so
please.
interesting to me. So we're talking about the day in life.
Right.
So how many cast members are you talking about? How many does it
Yeah.
village to village?
No, so we have typically about 15 cast members
So
who go with us.
so they go with you wherever you're going to be
Right. So
performing.
we have 3 different districts we work in. So we have
Okay.
3 different groups of 15.
Okay.
And it varies because, sometimes they'll be at school or they'll be away. So we have people that are able to come back and kind of come in and come out. But we have our steady 15
core,
in each group.
okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And you've written this play or
Right.
the script in English?
Yeah.
So they perform it in English?
No. So
Yes.
So I wrote it in English. It's based on Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol.
All right.
And the idea is it follows 3 spirits, which spirits are a big thing down there. And it follows Kenny and Shakira. Kenny is kind of a stereotypical male, Malawian male, and he doesn't believe that HIV is real. He is positive himself, but he doesn't know that. And he's about to have sex for the first time. And so his friend comes and tells him you need to wear a condom. And, because you don't know your status and you need to know your status. And he goes, oh, no, HIV is not a real thing. The witch doctors made it up. And so anyways, he warns him about these 3 spirits that will come if he doesn't use protection. So the first spirit takes him to the past and he sees his mother who died during childbirth talking to her sister saying, my husband died from AIDS. You know that, and actually you don't die from AIDS. You would have another. So because your immune system is so weak, so,
Something else.
malaria or something else
Sure.
is, that normally wouldn't kill you now might. My husband died because of that. If I do, look after my son. And the sister says, oh, HIV isn't real. So that's where you learn how he thought it wasn't real. And that one is all talking about testing. Because if he had just gone to get tested, he would have known his status. So the first spirit is all about going to get tested. The second spirit takes him into the near future where you find out if he had unprotected sex, that his girlfriend is now positive. So that spirit talks all about wearing a condom and protection, other forms of protection as well. So that's what that second one is about. The third one takes him into the far future, and now you're at Shaki's funeral, and that's the girlfriend. And he realizes that because of him, she has died, because HIV will take different paths with different bodies, and it'll take different amounts of time to take effect. And the reason she died was because she didn't continue to take her medication. Some people don't start. Other people start, feel better, and then stop.
Oh,
But the important thing is you have to take it for the rest of your life.
right.
So that's what the third spirit talks about.
Is it that easy to get that medication to the country? Because you said it's free.
It's free.
But is it that accessible that there is plenty of medication for whoever needs it?
There's plenty of medication. It's whether or not they can get to it.
The physicality of actually getting there.
Yeah. Which is a difficulty. We've looked at trying to tackle that, but you then run into so many different issues of stigma. If you bring it into the village, then everyone else sees, oh, that's the HIV or the ART, clinic coming in. Oh, those are all the positive people. And all of a
Yes.
sudden we're singling people out.
Sure. Is it an oral medication? Is it a pill? Is it an injection? And they take it daily or something?
Yeah.
And does how sometimes medications can give you side effects? Are there side effects from taking the medication?
There definitely can be, but I'd say the side effects, and the difficult thing is you definitely need to be having food, and that then becomes an issue in the country as well.
Sure.
The GDP is $300 and something. So to be above the poverty line, you just have to make $1 a day.
Wow.
So when we talk about poor, we're talking about a whole different level.
Right. Most of us can't even fathom.
Comprehend that.
No. Do you find that those that have been educated
Right.
and are taking their medication and have HIV, are they also ambassadors besides what you do? Do they talk to their brothers and their cousins and their sisters, and do amongst the village, do they support one another?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
And is that also part of this? the part of the stigma.
Yeah, and it literally depends whether or not that community has accepted it or not. And that's a huge part of what we're trying to do. We're educating about HIV, but we're just trying to break down that stigma. Let's sort of, we do discussion groups within the village. So once the play is done, we have a lot of songs that we wrote. You heard one of them just before.
Right.
We have other ones that we also sing. So then we'll take these villagers out and we'll do discussion groups,
Nice.
and we'll then bring those discussion groups back. So it'll be a group of 5 so they can really talk in depth about a topic relating to HIV in their village.
Will you break that down by gender? Will it be
A
co-ed?
mix. Yeah, co-ed,
Okay.
definitely.
And will it also be intergenerational?
Yes.
So you've got a grandma, you've got mom, you've got
Yeah.
or
I mean,
whatever?
it's not, we can't 100% be
Sure.
certain. A lot of people don't even know their birthday.
Wow.
And so, but yeah, we'll do those discussion groups and then we bring it back to the village. Because the big thing is, even my local actors, they're going into other villages. They're still outsiders to that
Sure.
village. So we want to make sure that we're having then the village talking to the village. So then what we do is we have these villagers will turn part of their big discussion points into questions. So then they have to answer them and we start engaging on that village level. And all the while, we have free testing going on. And it's pretty amazing because I have a lot of organizations, a lot of theater organizations stopped about 5 years ago
Okay.
because they were only getting about a 1% prevalence, 1 to 2% prevalence in their testing, which when there's about a little over 10%, and just last month in our district, we found out it jumped to 15, unfortunately. 1% is not good. And sadly, this is what is really sad. Typically, we're only testing 4% is good. If you're getting a 4% prevalence rate of HIV, that was a success.
Wow.
We go into some villages and we're getting 15% and we're getting higher, but our organization as an average is averaging above 4%. So
Do you test children too?
yes, but they have to be there with a parent.
parent.
Yeah.
And what are you finding in the level of the children? Are you finding that a lot of children are also
There
have
there
HIV?
definitely are a decent amount of them. Child can be a loose term in if you're talking about a toddler versus say, someone who's
11?
11. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. I work in pediatrics here in America.
Right, I know.
And some of the things I see and hear about are shocking and hard when I'm down there. But the age at which some of them become sexually active is scary.
And you're talking about
In Malawi.
yes.
Yeah. And that obviously leads into it there. I mean, it's not a huge thing, but there definitely are certain beliefs that, if you have sex with a virgin, that it will cure your AIDS. Now, that is not the biggest reason it spreads. I want to make that very clear.
Sure.
A lot of people think that is the biggest problem in Africa. It's not.
It's not.
It's not 100%, but it's very specific on what village you're in and what their beliefs are.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that you're being very well received? I mean, like from the governmental aspect of this, where you are just being really welcomed in and doing the best that you can to help.
I think there's even 2 levels to that. There's the level of the village side where we have the chiefs are. It's amazing when they get up to talk before and after our show, and the things that they say. It's so heartwarming every time.
I bet it is.
But we did have the pleasure actually of one of the former presidents hearing about our program and talking to one of our district directors about the good work that we were doing. And it was Joyce Bandon. It was amazing to have her good well wishes, and seeing that Together Act Now is making a real difference. We're using the local communities to really go in there, and in a unique way. We didn't even talk about this. That in addition to the theater program, we also rebuild primary schools.
Oh my gosh, I forgot we wanted to talk about
Yeah.
that. That's huge, isn't it?
Yeah, and so we. Statistically speaking, the longer you're in school, the less likely you are to contract the virus.
Interesting.
So,
Why is that, do you think?
because they're educated,
Okay.
if you're in the village all day and you have nothing to do, I mean, there's one thing usually leads to another, and people are marrying a lot younger then. Whereas if you're educated, you're pursuing something. You might be, even if you're not going to higher education, you at least have a better knowledge base. And in schools, they do education on HIV.
Do you ever bring the programs to the schools? I know you mentioned about being like outdoors. Are you able to bring like assemblies kind of thing to the schools?
We go into universities, we go into secondary schools.
Oh, no kidding.
We've done some work in primary schools. I have a whole concept, and it's living in my brain at the moment, but
good.
it's a primary school AIDS initiative, but it would take a much bigger push, but it would be working with different organizations. We partner with a lot of groups to be able to do what we do. It would take a lot of that, and it would be to try and go into the primary schools, because if we could get in, and kids do come to our show.
They do. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We welcome it. Because they're learning about these things at a young age. So we want to make sure they're learning the right information.
Well, not only that, but imagine if it's your mommy that's sick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
or exactly.
Your dad, you want to know what's going on. And,
completely.
I can see where education is so key.
Yeah.
So key.
So we rebuild primary schools. A lot of schools were built back in the 60s and 70s, and the roofs have collapsed. So in the rainy season, which is right now, I would drive by in a school that was built for 200 people. 200 kids now has 2,000 kids.
Oh my gosh.
And half of the roofs aren't working, and half of the classes are outside. So what we do is we start by rebuilding and restructuring the building so that they'll last a long time. And then we're starting to build new schools too, so that these places that are just so overpopulated and where these kids aren't getting an education during the rainy season can now continue that education. And especially girls. We really want to make sure we're keeping our young girls in education.
How difficult it is to build the schools and get the supplies necessary to do this.
I mean, it's very difficult, but we work once again with amazing community members.
Sure.
I feel like I haven't even had a chance just to say how thankful I am of all the Malawians that have volunteered and worked for our program. It is such a beautiful, wonderful, amazing country. And it's why I go back every year, sometimes more. And I've been really, really sick there before. I've multiple different things, and yet I still go back. I can't help it.
Where do you stay when you go there?
I stay with my African mama. Her name is Rita. And so I stay in a village called Balera Village, in a little area called Palm Beach.
Palm Beach.
Palm Beach, yeah.
Not like Florida Palm Beach.
No. So it's incredible down there. So you asked, how do we do it? We work with a contractor, and he'll help us do the design aspect of it. And my family's greatly involved. So I started the organization, and then my dad's a land surveyor. So he came in and started the school building program.
Nice.
And then my mom, who's a pediatric physical therapist, she came in and started a special needs program, getting wheelchairs for kids.
Oh my gosh. So it's a family affair.
It is. Yeah.
When were they back? When were they last in Malawi?
They were last there in March, so they'll be back there again, or April, and they'll be back there again this year.
And will you go around that time?
I might. It all depends on my schedule. I work at a hospital here in America as well, so it's busy.
Sure.
But we are this year. We're really, the work we're doing, because we're getting such an amazing response, we're needing to ramp up what we're doing. And we're really needing to focus on getting more money. So, grants and donations are incredibly important right now. Our work is so community driven that I don't take a salary or anything like that. It's so from the, a place of love and joy. So yeah, we need our community to help support us too with it.
You bet. Oh gosh, I love this.
It's amazing.
The vocals, the voices.
Yeah.
It's just it's emotional.
Yeah.
It is emotional.
Yeah, it waves through your body.
It does.
Yeah.
And especially if you've been there and you've seen Soweto, where I was, where you see poverty, and then you do see the De Beers diamonds. I mean, it's such a vast country with so many resources, but there's definitely some poverty as well.
Yeah.
We're going to take a very quick station break. We're just about done, believe
Oh
it
my
or not.
gosh.
I know.
No.
So I know. So stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back in just a couple seconds.
Thank you for tuning into LA Talk Live and the Talk Live Broadcast Network, original reality radio, and crafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk. Stay tuned.
All right, while we're listening to these beautiful harmonies, there's not even any drums in this because, guy, you could just listen to drumming forever
Yeah,
in
the
Hawaii.
djembe drums.
Oh my gosh, but the vocals are just spectacular.
Yeah.
You talked about the fact that you've done a lot of traveling. I've also done a lot of traveling. Well, that kind of segues into the time of year that we are in right now.
Yeah.
And our studio right here in the Paradise Building at the LA Talk Live studio is an arm's distance away from one of the busiest airports in the world,
Yeah.
and that's Los Angeles International Airways. And next week, I'm actually going to have two people from LAWA, as we like to call it here, LAX. One is Mike Ware. He is the Director of Communications. And the other woman is Becca Doughton. And she is the, I'm sorry, Doughton, I did say that right. She is the PR Director. And we're going to be talking about just what's been going on in that airport. I've lived here my entire life. I have seen how the airport has grown, and we've all driven into the airport. And what's going on? I mean, they've done some very, very exciting things at the airport. This is a huge travel time.
Yeah, they have a lot of new things coming up, don't they?
They do, because you were just
see
there.
it. Yeah, I was just there last night, and I see it.
Don't you love those new lights?
Yes, and I'm excited for. They're getting the new train coming in where you can park off site, and
Yes.
the rental car will be off site,
Yes.
and I am excited for that.
There's a lot, and that is a whole nother subject, because that
Yeah.
off-site parking
Oh.
is where I was just yesterday. That is where I grew up in Manchester Square, which is where there's the last parts of a homeless encampment that I was just at yesterday, where LAX is looking to help those people transition out.
Oh, amazing.
Because that is going to be what else is coming up in LAX, because
Right.
it is so huge. But even the Bradley building, some of the
Yeah.
things that they've done internationally,
Oh.
it's very, very exciting. And we're going to have some travel tips on how to negotiate LAX during the holidays. So it's a timely show, and I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to having Mark and Becca join me next week. But in the time remaining, I think it's so important, if people have felt inspired by you, which
Right.
I hope they have, one of the things that I think we should speak is exactly how can people reach out and get to know more about your organization.
Yeah, of course. So we have a website. That's the easiest way to go through, www.togetheractnow.org. On there, right now we're doing a Christmas drive.
Yes.
So you're able to make a Christmas donation, and you can even make a Christmas donation in someone's name.
Oh, how
So if you want to
nice.
give a gift to someone and you're trying to decide, like, my brother, I might not be able to figure out what to give him, but I could give him the gift of a donation.
contribution,
Yeah.
sure.
So, and you just got to click, it's right on the first page, right when you land, and you just click, this is a tribute donation, and then it pops up, and it makes it super simple. You got to put in their name and everything, and we
Oh,
send
nice.
something directly to them.
That's nice.
Yeah. So, that's obviously a very easy way to do it right
Mm-hmm.
now during the holiday time. You can also we do a big birthday giving. So on your birthday, if you want to do a fundraiser, so instead of asking for gifts, you can ask for donations in your name.
Nice.
And it's amazing because you get to look like an amazing person, and if you're doing it, you are.
Yes.
And so and your friends get to contribute. So we're not even asking you to directly give for your birthday. We're asking you to ask your friends to give, and it can be as simple as if you're turning.
It's a milestone birthday.
Yeah, you're turning 30. So ask all your friends to donate $30.
There you go.
And you try and raise a certain amount, and it's all on there, donate your birthday. You can also volunteer. There's different ways, you can communicate with us through contacting if you have ideas on things that you think you could do.
Right. I think
Yeah.
that's terrific. And are you in the midst of writing a new play?
Yes, we're in the midst of doing a lot of stuff right now. These are exciting times right now. I mean, when I was there, we were in the recording studio putting 5 songs down. We're going to get those on the radio in Malawi. I'm looking to make
Nice.
some #1 hits down
Oh,
there.
that's great.
Yeah, we're wanting to make a film so then we can get the films out into all of the video villages out there for free. But
Nice.
all of this, we need our community support back here to do, because what we're doing down there can't cost them a cent. It costs them too much money just to go get the ART medication.
Sure.
And if you think of that being 20 cents to be able to give them the medication for 3 months to be able to live, and think what that 20 cents is to us. I think I probably lost 20 cents in my car sometime today.
Really? Exactly.
It's so small for us, but it goes so far down there.
Oh, gosh.
Marsha,
Kyle.
I wanted to first by saying,
yes. We were about to say the same thing at the same time.
But I was going to say it in Chichewa. I was going to say, Zukomo Kwambili.
Does that mean thank you?
It means thank you very much.
Oh, Kyle, thank you very much. And you can see why this could have been a 2-hour show. There's so much to talk about. Maybe you'll come back later in the spring or
if you will have
summertime.
me back,
I would love to have you
be
back.
back.
And you can update, and you can always post those videos on my Born to Talk radio show Facebook page, on my
when
website.
we get our music videos, we'll post them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll get those posted. Great. For all of you that continue to follow my show, here we are. We're coming to the end of the year. I just cannot believe, maybe you don't know what to buy somebody for Christmas. We were just given a terrific suggestion. Yeah. I wish you a beautiful day. I wish all of you a beautiful day. To all of my friends and family in California that we have been living through such devastating fires. The firefighters are heroes.
They are.
To all of you that are in harm's way, I hope that you're safe. That is a really serious problem they are facing right this moment. So on a positive note, you know what you can do? You can smile. You can say hello to a stranger. You can count your own blessings and bless others.
That's
and
right.
until next week, where we talk about flying on a big airplane going somewhere, I wish you all a beautiful day. Thank you so much, Kyle, for joining me.
Thank you.
And I'll look forward to seeing all of you again next week.
Zukomo.
China right in front of you. See the canyons broken by cloud. See the tuna fleets clearing the sea out. See the bedroom fires at night. See the oil fields at first light. And see the bird with a leaf in her mouth. After the flood, all the colors came out. It was a beautiful day. Don't let it get away. Beautiful day. Touch me. Take me to that other place. It's me. I know I'm not a hopeless case. What you done?
Tuning into LA Talk Live and the Talk Live Broadcast Network, original reality radio, handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk. Stay tuned.